everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Sally if you're new here, and I'm so glad you stopped by. Today I'm going to be sharing another one of my very favorite recipes. It's something I like to call cheddar braised pork. More on why it's called that later. But for the time being, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it would mean so much to me if you would hit that subscribe button, like this video if you like what you see here. Let's jump right into it. For this recipe, I am starting with about 3 pounds of bone-in country rib. As you can see, I'm salting the meat ahead of time. This is actually very important to optimizing flavor. It takes the saltiness all the way throughout the meat, but it also brings out the deeper flavors of the meat itself and helps to start breaking down the tissue from collagen to gelatin ahead of time so that it is nice and tender and you get that dreamy kind of pull apart consistency. Next up, I've got about half of a large bunch of cilantro. I've washed it thoroughly, but I'm keeping the stems on and chopping it up about as small as I possibly can. This adds a ton of flavor to the recipe, so don't skimp here. The more cilantro, the merrier. Meanwhile, I was melting about half a stick of butter in the microwave. I went ahead and pulled that out, and now I am adding in all my cilantro to the butter. Next up, I've got some garlic. These are small cloves, so I have several, but I would recommend about 4 to 5. I went ahead, took the skin off, crushed them, and then I'm adding them in with my cilantro and lime juice as well, just the juice of 1 lime. Once all your ingredients are in the bowl, you're going to mix to thoroughly combine, and now it's time to start coating the meat. Note, I didn't add any salt to this mixture, number 1, because I pre-salted my pork, and number 2, because I used salted butter. Next up, I am just going to coat each piece of pork with my cilantro, butter, lime, garlic deliciousness mixture, and then I'm going to nestle it into a ceramic pot I have here. You want to choose a pot where it's going to fit snugly. I found this one at a thrift store. It was like $10 and it's perfect for the job. So a smaller cast iron would work as well, just whatever you have on hand. Note here that I'm reserving the fattiest pieces of meat for the top. I make sure to place the fattiest pieces of meat on top because when we do the broiling portion of the cooking process, that's going to get nice and crispy, and throughout the braising it's going to render into the rest of the dish, helping to keep it tender. So put the fat back on top of the dish and just make sure everything again is nestled in tight. After that, I'm just going to put in any of the leftover cilantro mixture that I have, putting the lid on the pot, and it's time for it to go in the refrigerator. I left my pork in the refrigerator for about 4 hours while I was out running some errands. I would recommend you leave it for at least 2 hours, in which case you can leave it on the counter or as long as overnight. I went ahead and put my pork in the oven with the lid on to start. And this is going to depend on your oven, on how much pork exactly you have, the size of the pan. But it took mine about 2.5 or 3 hours until it was done. You will know the meat's ready when it pulls apart with a fork. Sometimes it sticks a little bit around the fatty parts of the meat. That's totally fine, but it's that fork tender texture you're looking for. After this, you're going to crank the oven all the way up to 500 degrees. Stick the pork uncovered back in the oven for just about 3 to 5 minutes, and this is where the name cheddar braised pork comes in, because with a traditional braise, you're going to sear the meat before braising it, whereas in this case, I let it render for the longer cook time, and then I simply crank up the heat, broil the top of that kind of fat back so you get the same crispy melt in your mouth result. And it is so easy, takes a little bit of forethought, but incredibly delicious. All right, we have made it to the end. Here's the finished product. I'm gonna serve it up with some garlicky green beans, this big, beautiful salad that Samuel made, and some potatoes that are still in the oven. But here is my ninja husband. He's gonna do the honors and taste test for us real quick. I feel like that's always the response. Is it okay? Okay.